So yeah, we've just been hanging out in sort of central Idaho for the past week. We started off up at Alturas Lake, catching up with some friends of Morgan's from high school. It was, beautiful time up there. Paddled on the water a little bit. One of Morgan's friends actually managed to catch a fish somehow on a stubby cooler. And and then so after there we headed back down to Ketchum. We've got a road atlas that we actually picked up when we were in Yellowstone, and it's got sort of key highlights for, different things like mountain biking, skiing, snowboarding, hiking across different states in America. And Ketchum jumped out as a highlight. So, Morgan managed to find a free camp on the way into town.
Yeah, so we've been using a few different apps to find camps, and the best one that we've found so far for free camps is iOverlander, and it was just a few miles outside of town, about like a 10-minute drive, 15-minute drive, and then we actually were just riding our bikes in, and it was about a 30-minute ride into town. But yeah, it was really awesome. It was in national forest, so because it wasn't a national park, we could have, the dog was off lead pretty much the whole time. The campsites were really spread out and far apart, which was awesome. There's a little creek that ran behind it, not really big enough to swim, but big enough anyways. And there was a trailhead sort of further down the road. I think there's about 12 campsites. We never walked all the way to the end, but we were in number 3. And there's a hike that sort of starts right at the off sort of one of the forks in the road. And that kept the road a bit busy, so it was a little bit dusty at some points, but other than that, it was a really awesome free camp.
Yeah, so it was really nice to just get to this spot and sort of sit still for a few days. Morgan wasn't feeling amazing. I think a few late nights with her friends, catching up, and so we just took it easy, walked along the creek, up into the valley a little bit, maybe a mile or two up the valley actually. We were walking up there one day and there's looking at these funny shapes on the hill, and we're like, they're rocks, and as we get closer these rocks are moving, and it was actually a big herd of sheep. I was chatting with a guy a couple of days later, and he said that it's pretty common for someone to bring sheep up there each year, and they're in that valley for a few months. So that was sort of a bit unique, and I think that also contributed to the road traffic. I think it may be a bit of a novelty to see the sheep out in nature there. We actually had a guy come through, I guess you could say like a ranger or like a dog patrol person to check on if we'd have any dramas with the sheep herding dogs, because I'm guessing a few people maybe got too close, and the dogs probably didn't like that. So
and then on one of the days we rode into town, really nice ride into town. It's a little bit of it was on the road, and then it's bike trail the rest of the way, so maybe we rode like half a mile on the road. Not ideal, especially the second time around, because we had Oppie and Nandi both, but easy enough. And the ride back was a bit harder, a little bit uphill, but we managed. Fucking never doing this again. We actually went in because we thought that there was going to be a farmer's market on a Tuesday, but turns out they've moved it to a Wednesday. So we sort of got there, and then we just decided to explore downtown a bit, and just sort of hung out, went to a few shops, got an ice cream, rode our bikes around a little bit, and that was really awesome. And then when we were there, we saw a flyer where the markets were meant to be. There was a band setting up, or like event getting set up. So we had a look, and there was like live music that was going to be on that night from like 7 to 9, and some food carts. So we ended up going back to get the dog, and then riding back into town again, and we went to some free music, just like a band playing some cover songs and maybe a bit of country.
I believe in life. I push right over.
really awesome. They had lots of food carts, and they had like a full bar, and yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So, and I think that was called Ketchum Live. So, maybe that was a part of the music festival they had coming up.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think towards the end of July, start of August. But I think either way, it sounds like it's a bit of an annual thing. So, what's that sort of towards the end of
Oh my god.
Sorry, there's just a bit of a crazy car going through the park here. Yeah.
Holy shit.
But yeah, so I think that's something that happens sort of every year through July. So it was really cool. Towns like Ketchum, like they seem to really promote that outside lifestyle, cycling, walking, live music in the park. So yeah, it's really great to get into those towns over
Matt
the summer.
was very impressed by their road courtesy. All the drivers stopped for you when you're on your bikes or when you were walking across the roads, which some places like Jackson, Wyoming, for instance, not like that.
No,
Ketchum was great.
Yeah, so it was really good. And then I think my last full day there, I got out and went for a bit of a ride. So actually, I can't remember, what was the name of the road where the free camp was on?
Lake Creek Drive.
Lake Creek Drive. So just to the opposite end of Lake Creek Drive, there's like a big sort of car park and trailhead. I think also for cross-country skiing over the winter. But then there's maybe half a dozen rides/walks that go out from that. So I ended up doing one called the Fox Creek Loop. I think it was 7 miles or so. It follows up the Big Wood River for a little while. Sort of go over some like diverse terrain, sort of open meadows, and you're up on some shaly edges. And then it sort of switches back up through the woods, and it was a really nice ride actually. Not a lot of traffic, a couple of dog walkers, one other cyclist. And I think partly because it's recommended to do it counterclockwise, so unless you're really quick on a bike or there's someone slow, you probably don't catch up with the people in front of you and don't have many head-ons. So, but it was really nice. So it's a bit of a lug up until the top, and then yeah, really nice, fast down section. Little narrow track, nothing gnarly on it, but yeah, really fun to ride. Yeah, and I didn't get to do any other riding in the area, but a few more days there could have been really great to explore. So. Yeah. Yeah,
and then on that day, Oppie and I just sort of hung out at the bus, and we did a bit of baking, made some cookies. And just sort of hung out for the day. But it was just really nice spot to have. One, it was a free camp, so we weren't paying, to be there. And then also just a spot to sort of like chill out, do some washing, and sort of get on top of a few things. Matt did the back.
Yeah, I worked. Before we had left Oregon, I'd started making like a little rear deck that goes into a receiver hitch. So I got the frame welded up, but I never got any paint on it or timber. So I got some paint the other day and some timber. So I finished that off, which was really good.
Yeah, and Oppie and I spent a few days doing some planning and working out where we're going to meet up with people, and having a look ahead a little bit. So that was awesome too, because sometimes you get these awesome free camps, but then there's no phone signal because you're too far out and you're just outside of town. So you had really good cell phone reception, easy ride in, and really great.
It was good. And then just after that, which I guess is in the same sort of area, we were headed to Haley, which is maybe 30 minutes south.
Yeah.
And that's whether or not it's bigger, but it's got a better supermarket. But Haley has some really beautiful parks right in the town to sort of hang out in, lots of green grass and shade.
Oppie, Dad is talking.
And then we also just had a little wander around, checked out that town. We spent a night there. They've got a water fill up point as well, and a dump point, which is just by donation. So it's great to have access to that. You don't want to have to be constantly worrying about how much water you're using. You've got to be resourceful, but it's good to know there's spots along the way. And then they also had a Saturday market there. It was a little smaller, but we popped in, had a little look, some good local produce, and sort of crafts and bits and pieces. So.
And next we're off to Idaho Falls. We've got a couple 100-degree days heading.
Twin Falls.
Sorry, not Idaho Falls, Twin Falls. But yeah, we've got a couple 100-degree days heading our way, and we don't have a working air conditioning. So hopefully we can get that sorted in Twin Falls. Yeah. And then we're going to go see Mima in Utah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's hard to think of everything to cover in these videos. Partly because when you're sitting here talking about it, so many things pop into your mind when you've already spoken about it. But if there's questions people have about areas we're going to, any recommendations, feel free to send us a message, leave a comment. Maybe we'll look at doing like answering some questions, maybe at the end of the month or the start of the month. Yeah, because really nice to give you guys good quality content. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.